The reason why black girls are the least desirable by most men is because they're the most masculine. They act like boss bitches, which most men are not attracted to.
What exactly is it that is turning you off of black women?
I'll say some stuff that should be relatable, at least to the public. It's known on dating apps that black women are the least attractive of all the races.
You know, I have a rebuttal for that. White people are the majority population that use dating apps.
A lot of women, period, but mostly black women are talking about they want to be independent. They want to stress on everyone around them. They don't need a man. Most of them will be quiet once they find a man that they want. But black women find a man they want, and they'll still say, I don't need a man. You can't find a mate when you tell them you don't need them.
Don't nobody want no dark-skinned women. We don't like dark-skinned women. Yuck. We like them red bones. We like them high yellows. How many times have you heard that? How many times have you thought that, ladies? How many times have you looked at and you seen and you felt that in your system? What if I told you there was a dark history? That would explain and give a lot of context into why the racially ambiguous or the light-skinned woman is so desired in this country. Well, slavery. So during the 1600s, during slave trade prior to emancipation, there was something known, a new category of enslaved women that emerged known as fancy girls. What are fancy girls, you might ask? Well, they were usually young and usually light-skinned women, and these black women were purchased explicitly for sexual exploitation at rates 4 to 5 times the price of women field laborers. It is on record that they would go as young as 13, and they would go as high in price as almost $6,000 for a nice fancy girl. Now, fancy girls could serve as concubines or prostitutes. However, they were not synonymous and oftentimes did not overlap. Now, a prostitute could be a fancy girl, but oftentimes fancy girls were all not prostitutes. And women like Aviana White and Yellow Girl Charlotte were historically documented to be known fancy girls. It was said that the higher the culture and the fairer the skin, the higher the price they fetched. Now, more than other enslaved women, fancy girls often embodied the rape and sexual assault culture during the antebellum South period. And it further induced white anxieties and elite white men's desire to have to assert their dominance on to black people, specifically black women, in order to assert and reassert their power and control, not just out in the field with labor, but also in the bedroom. There was a little term known as the one-eyed man, which was oftentimes white slave traders who had one eye due to black women that they were assaulting, fighting back and gouging an eye out. Little history fact there. But oftentimes these fancy girls were known as status symbols and often fetishized by elite white men who would prancy them and parlor them around bars, saloons, clubs, events. So it oftentimes was a status symbol to own a fancy girl or a mulatto. An example of one would be Sally Hemings, which was Thomas Jefferson's fancy girl, and he was known to do his thing with his black slaves. So yeah, just one example. There's also one known as Aviana White, who they found documentation of back and forth letters between her and her ex slaveholder was Rice Ballard. And they have their letters back and forth, and she would often write back to ask for money for their son. That there showed and established that fancy girls often had relationships and a little bit of wiggle room when it came to white men and elite white men during that time. A lot of them were able to capitalize off the patriarchy and their high position within the white world. And in the antebellum South, it oftentimes allowed them to be heard due to their close physical and emotional proximity to white men. And that allowed them to get things and allowed them to often communicate their desires or even their fears and even have those things acted upon by said white men. So I guess you could say they was using that little cooch to get things during that time. I mean, do what you got to do. But to tie all this together in today and why the foreign look or the racially ambiguous look or the light-skinned girl and how people want to go so hard for them, where this all ties in together, right? I'm about to explain. So as elite white men pranced their little fancy girls around, it gave a higher desire and fetish symbol attached to them to lower class white men. And that's why lower class white men would go and, assault and do what they would do to black women during that time period. You have black men wanting them due to the fact that they see that the status symbol behind the fairer skin, light skinned woman, and the trickle down effect of white men desiring them trickle down to black men wanting to desire them. Once again, a status symbol. Then, of course, you have the beef between light-skinned women and dark-skinned women, as dark-skinned women saw those light-skinned mulattoes get treated better, get better treatment from their slave masters, better treatment from the black men. Meanwhile, they had to go into the field and pick cotton and do hard work labor. And even though they were also assaulted, it was normally more brutal and less, affectionate, if you want to use that term. So that's where the jealousy brews between and the beef brews between light skinned and dark skinned women. And there's one more angle. Those white women. Now imagine being that older, saggy, soggy white woman tending to your white husband's children while every night or during the day he's prancing around with his younger, more beautiful, more just everything better than you light-skinned woman. And she's fulfilling his emotional and physical desires every day. Meanwhile, he barely shows you any attention, and a jealousy brews inside of her. There's not much she can do about it. Remember, this is the antebellum South. She can't do nothing. So not only is your husband going out and abusing the dark-skinned field worker woman, he's also prancing these beautiful light-skinned women around in your face, and that probably has a relationship with her, and giving her children. Fast forward to modern times, that's probably why you get these right here. Racially ambiguous wannabe black white women. White women who want to prance around with light-skinned women features or come off as if they're racially ambiguous. Oh, and let's not forget the trope of the great white zaddy. So I know this was long, but I hope this all kind of summarizes this in a little bit to give you a better understanding of why there's a beef between light-skinned women and dark-skinned women, and why light-skinned women are historically more desired. And as with everything in this country, it can be pointed back to slavery.
Guys, you heard them. They said black women are the least desirable because of their skin color. Some said this because they have masculine features, and some said this because of the slavery mentality of black men preferring racist, ambiguous women to black skinned women. Guys, I want to put something. Your preference is your preference. There are people that like dating black women regardless of whatever people think. But coming on the internet to generalize it that all black men do not desire to date black women, it's a lie, it's a fallacy. So guys, I want to know your thoughts on this. Do you think that black women are undesirable or the least desirable to date? Please comment your thoughts on the comment section below. Please do not forget to like, subscribe to my YouTube channel. To meet again, stay safe.